There exists a particular quality of quietness that can only be purchased through a decade of grinding 70-hour work weeks. It transcends mere lack of sound. It represents freedom from duty. It manifests in the rhythm of rainfall, striking reinforced glass windows that your labor funded in a residence you personally designed on acreage, bearing solely your signature on official documentation. My identity is Thaddeus. My current age stands at 36 years. My profession involves remote consultation for upscale commercial architectural ventures, and until the previous Tuesday arrived, my existence resembled paradise. The structure I inhabit cannot be classified as an estate. The design features a contemporary dual-level triangular frame, positioned on 5 acres of forested terrain, with views overlooking Lake Tahoe. The environment proves harsh, secluded, and frigid throughout half the calendar year, which aligns perfectly with my preferences. 4 years of construction effort went into this sanctuary. Each deckboard received individual placement by my hands. The visible timber beams in the main living space underwent sanding until my fingerprints nearly vanished. Every fastener, every fixture, every measured section of this dwelling symbolizes a perimeter I established between my existence and external forces. More precisely, it symbolizes a perimeter separating me from my relatives. My affection toward my parents, Vernon and Miriam, exists in that theoretical manner one appreciates a destructive storm system that has finally departed toward open waters. The raw power commands respect, yet you certainly oppose having it positioned directly overhead. Throughout the preceding 24 months, I have sustained what mental health professionals term minimal interaction. Birthday occasions receive substantial gift certificates. Holiday communications occur during Christmas and Thanksgiving. Text message responses arrive within 1 day, typically containing brief, courteous replies that surrender absolutely no information regarding my financial status or intimate existence. The framework functioned adequately until circumstances shattered. A rainy Tuesday evening marked when everything fractured. My home workspace occupies the elevated loft area with sightlines to the primary living zone. Precipitation hammered the floor-to-ceiling glass panels, transforming the lake beyond into a steel-colored smear. Noise-canceling headphones covered my ears, consciousness submerged in productive workflow, completing a visual rendering for a Seattle client. My mobile device rested screen down on the work surface configured to silent mode. The approaching vehicle escaped my notice. The access path to my residence extends 1/4 mile of crushed stone winding through thick evergreen forest. The design prioritizes seclusion. Unless you represent the package delivery service or fuel supplier, that road serves no legitimate purpose for your presence. What captured my attention proved not auditory, but visual. Twin high-intensity headlights swept across the vaulted ceiling space of my living area, slicing through the subdued ambient illumination like searchlights penetrating a correctional facility escape attempt. My expression registered confusion as I removed the headphones. Initial assumptions suggested a delivery operator had become disoriented. The time displayed 7:15 in the evening, complete darkness outside accompanied by storming conditions. I rose from my position and approached the loft railing, directing my gaze downward through the expansive front windows. My stomach performed an unpleasant drop. The vehicle was not a delivery van. Positioned on my driveway, obstructing the departure route, sat a massive 28-foot moving vehicle rental. The enormous truck sat idling noisily, its exhaust system pumping white vapor into the cold precipitation. Behind it waited a tan-colored sedan. Recognition arrived instantly. A Buick LeSabre, my father's automobile. I remained motionless at the railing for a solid 10 seconds, my consciousness refusing to process the visual data. What explains their presence? No invitation had been extended. Our most recent conversation occurred 3 weeks prior. I retrieved my phone from the desk and activated the screen. The silent mode icon displayed actively, but beneath it lurked a horrifying catalog of notifications. 17 missed incoming calls, all originating from mother and father. 14 text communications. I accessed the initial text from my mother dispatched 2 hours earlier. Nearly arrived. Traffic conditions terrible. The subsequent message, hoping you cleared the driveway. The third communication, answer the phone, Thaddeus. A cold sensation more frigid than the lake breeze washed across me. This transcended a spontaneous visit. You don't secure a 28-foot truck for a spontaneous visit. You secure a truck that magnitude when relocating your complete existence from origin to destination. And destination apparently meant my driveway. I observed from the window as the driver's door of the sedan opened. My father, Vernon, emerged. He's 65, a substantial man who has invested his complete lifetime believing that maintaining the loudest voice in any space equals correctness. He raised his coat collar against the rain and gestured aggressively toward the house. My mother, Miriam, exited the passenger side. She appeared disheveled, clutching her handbag to her chest. Their appearance suggested not guests. Their appearance suggested an occupying force. I experienced a phantom pain in my chest cavity, a remnant of the anxiety I inhabited daily before relocating here. I inhaled deeply, attempting to stabilize my trembling hands. This is my dwelling, I reminded myself. My documentation, my regulations. But as I descended the suspended staircase to the ground level, I understood one thing with absolute certainty. The refuge had been compromised. The storm system had reversed direction, and it was approaching landfall. I didn't immediately unlock the entrance. I activated the exterior flood illumination, bathing the driveway in severe white LED brilliance. I observed my father flinch and shield his vision, directing his gaze upward at the house. He located me through the glass door and waved his hand in a hurry-up gesture. That gesture, that dismissive, commanding flick of the wrist, it instantly transported me backward to being 16 years old, being ordered to trim the grass while my sister observed television. I released the deadbolt and stepped onto the sheltered porch. I didn't invite them inside. I positioned myself in the doorway, blocking the threshold with my physical form. The cold, moisture-laden air struck me, carrying scents of pine needles and exhaust emissions. Father, mother, I stated, my voice sufficiently loud to carry over the idling truck engine. What is happening? Vernon marched up the steps, bypassing any greeting. He appeared exhausted, his eyes rimmed with crimson, but he carried that familiar atmosphere of unearned authority. Thaddeus, thank goodness, he stated, wiping rain from his forehead. The navigation system on this thing is worthless. We missed the turn twice. Come on, grab a jacket. We need to commence unloading the rear of the truck before the rain intensifies. I don't want the mattresses becoming saturated. He attempted to step past me, reaching for the door handle. I didn't shift position. I kept my hand firmly on the door frame, effectively blocking my own father. Wait, hold on, I stated, keeping my voice level. Unloading. What mattresses? Father, what are you doing here? Vernon stopped, regarding me as if I was the one being unreasonable. We're relocating in, Thaddeus. Obviously now move. It's freezing out here. Relocating in? I repeated, the words tasting metallic in my mouth. What do you mean relocating in? My mother Miriam came up the steps then. She was shivering, her face pale and strained. She immediately went for the emotional pressure point. Oh, Thaddeus, don't be difficult. She sniffled, her voice trembling. It's been the worst day of our lives. We're exhausted. Can we just go inside and have some tea? I feel faint. Mother, I'm sorry you're tired, but you can't just appear with a moving truck, I stated, not budging. You have a house. Why are you here with a moving truck? Vernon let out a heavy, impatient sigh. We don't have a house, Thaddeus. We sold it. The world seemed to tilt slightly on its axis. You sold the house? The house in Pennsylvania? When? This afternoon, Vernon said as if discussing selling an old lawnmower. We finalized at 2:00. Transferred the keys. Completed deal. Why? I asked, my voice rising. Why would you do that? To rescue Sloane. Obviously, Mother cried out, the tears starting to flow freely now. Your sister was in trouble, Thaddeus. Real trouble. She had debts. The bank was going to seize her condominium. They were threatening to garnish her wages. We couldn't let that happen. She's your sister. I stared at them. My sister Sloane, 30 years old, the golden child, the princess who had never been told no in her entire life. So, let me get this straight, I said, speaking slowly to make sure I understood the insanity. Sloan had debt. So you sold your paid-off house, the house you've lived in for 30 years, to pay it off. We had to, Mother sobbed. Whatever equity we had left, we used it to clear her name. We're broke, Thaddeus. We have nothing left. We gave the rest to Sloan so she could get back on her feet. And where did you plan to live? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Vernon puffed out his chest. Well, that's why we're here. You have this big place. 4 bedrooms, 5 acres. You live here all alone. It's ridiculous. Really a waste of space. We figured we'd move into the ground floor suite. It's better this way. We can help you take care of the property, and we can spend our retirement with family. He said it with such confidence, such absolute certainty, that I would just roll over and accept it. They had burned their own lifeboat to save my sister, and now they were climbing onto mine without even asking if it could hold their weight. You figured? I asked, my grip on the doorframe tightening until my knuckles turned white. You figured you would just move in? You didn't think to call me to ask me? We're your parents, Thaddeus. Vernon snapped, his face turning a shade of angry purple. We don't need to ask for permission to stay with our son when we're in a crisis. Family helps family. Now get out of the way. I need to use the bathroom. He pushed forward again. He actually put his hands on my chest to shove me aside. It was a mistake. Something inside me snapped. Not a violent snap, but a structural one. The bridge I had been maintaining between us for years just collapsed. I shoved back hard. Vernon stumbled backward, nearly slipping on the wet porch steps. He grabbed the railing to steady himself, looking at me with shock. No, I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it was hard as granite. You are not bringing a single box into this house. To understand why I pushed my own father on a rainy porch, you have to understand Sloan. Or rather, you have to understand the mathematics of our family. In my parents' equation, Sloan was the variable that always needed to be solved, and I was the constant that was expected to provide the numbers. When I was 18, I had saved $17,000 from bagging groceries and mowing lawns since I was 12. I wanted to go to architecture school. 2 weeks before tuition was due, my parents sat me down at the kitchen table. They told me that Sloan, who was 22 at the time, had gotten into some trouble with a credit card scam she didn't understand. She was facing legal action. They needed a lawyer. They needed to pay restitution. They didn't ask for my money. They told me they had already accessed my joint account, which was still linked to theirs, because I was a minor when I opened it and transferred the funds. You can take a gap year, my mother had said, stroking my hand while I sat there in numb silence. You're smart, Thaddeus. You'll figure it out. Sloan isn't as strong as you. She needs us. I took 3 gap years. I worked construction. I clawed my way through college on loans and exhaustion. When I was 25, I bought my first decent car, a Honda Accord. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. 3 months later, Sloan crashed her convertible while driving under the influence. She wasn't hurt, but her car was totaled and her license was suspended. My dad demanded I lend her my car so she could get to her job interviews. She can't get back on her feet if she can't drive, Thaddeus, Father had argued. I gave in. 2 weeks later, she returned the Accord with a massive scrape along the entire passenger side and the interior smelling of marijuana and vomit. She never paid for the repairs. My parents told me to stop being so materialistic. That was the pattern. Sloan fell. I was the cushion. Sloan set fires. I was the extinguisher. So, standing on that porch looking at my parents who had just nuked their own retirement to bail her out again, I felt a rage so pure it felt like clarity. Where is she? I asked, looking past them at the Buick. The back seat was piled high with pillows and loose clothes, but it was empty of people. Where is who? Mother asked, wiping her eyes. Sloan, I said. If you sold your house to save her and you're all homeless now, where is she? Is she in the truck? My mother hesitated. She looked down at her shoes. Well, she started, her voice getting quiet. She's having a hard time, Thaddeus. The stress of the debt, the creditors calling. It was very traumatic for her. She needed a reset, a few days to center herself. I laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. A reset. "Where is she, Mother?" "She's at the Azure Springs Resort," Father barked, stepping in to defend her. "Down in the city. Just for a week. She needs to decompress before she comes up here to join us. She's fragile right now." The Azure Springs Resort. I knew it. It was a 4-star spa hotel about 2 hours south. Rooms started at $450 a night. The math hit me instantly. "Let me get this right," I said, pointing a finger at my father. "You sold your house. You are currently homeless. You are standing on my porch in the rain demanding to live in my basement. And Sloane is at a $450 a night spa. She's suffering," Mother wailed. "You don't understand mental health, Thaddeus. You've always been so cold." "And who paid for the spa?" I asked. Silence. The only sound was the diesel chug of the moving truck. "We gave her a little bit of the equity," Father muttered, looking away. "For a fresh start." "A fresh start?" I repeated. "She's 30 years old, Father. She's not a teenager. She's a financial black hole." "Don't you talk about your sister like that," Father shouted, stepping forward again. "This is exactly why we need to be here, to teach you some family values. Now open this damn door. I'm done discussing this. We are your parents. We sacrificed everything for you kids, and I will not be interrogated on your porch." He reached for the door handle again. I stepped back inside the house and grabbed the heavy oak door. "You sacrificed everything for one kid," I said. "And it wasn't me." "Thaddeus!" Mother screamed, realizing what I was doing. "Thaddeus, don't you dare!" "Go to the hotel with Sloane," I said. "I'm sure she has a pull-out couch for you." "We have nowhere to go," Father roared. "The truck is due back in 2 days." "We have no money for a hotel." "Poor planning on your part," I said. Channeling every ounce of coldness they had accused me of having does not constitute an emergency on mine. I slammed the door. I threw the deadbolt, then the secondary lock. Then I engaged the security bar I had installed at the base of the door. Through the thick glass and wood, I heard my father scream my name, and a heavy thud as he kicked the door. I backed away, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I watched the door handle jiggle violently. They were locked out, but they weren't gone. I turned off the porch light, plunging them into darkness. The sound of a grown man kicking a solid oak door is distinct. It's a heavy, dull thud that vibrates through the floorboards. My father kicked the door 3 times. Then, the shouting started. "Open this door, Thaddeus. I mean it. Open it right now or I'll break it down." I stood in the hallway about 5 feet back from the door, watching the handle rattle violently. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from adrenaline. This was it, the nuclear option. I had done the one thing you are never supposed to do in a family like mine. I had said no and meant it. I knew I couldn't just stand there. If I opened the door now, even just to argue, they would push their way in. And I knew the law, or at least I knew enough of it to be terrified. In many states, if someone stays in your house for a certain amount of time, or receives mail there, or simply moves their belongings in with your permission, they can establish tenancy. Once they are tenants, you can't kick them out without a 30-day eviction notice and a court order. If I let them cross that threshold with their boxes, I would be living with them for months, maybe years. "Thaddeus." Mother's voice came through the glass, muffled but hysterical. "It's freezing out here. How can you be so cruel? We are your parents." I walked over to the wall-mounted tablet that controlled my smart home system. I tapped the icon for the front porch camera. The screen flickered to life. The night vision camera showed them clearly in black and white. Father was pacing back and forth on the porch, his face contorted with rage. Mother was sitting on one of the Adirondack chairs I had hand-painted last summer, sobbing into her hands. Beyond them, the rain was coming down in sheets, illuminated by the floodlights of the moving truck still idling in the driveway. I pressed the talk button on the interface. My voice projected out to the porch speaker, metallic and detached. "Father, stop kicking the door." Father spun around looking for the camera. He spotted the small black lens near the doorbell. He marched right up to it until his face filled the screen, distorted like a funhouse mirror. You coward, he spat. Hiding behind a camera. Come out here and face me like a man. I am facing you, I said through the intercom. I'm telling you to leave. You cannot stay here. Turn the truck around and go to a motel. We don't have money for a motel, Father roared. I told you we spent everything paying off the lawyers and the bank for your sister. We have maybe $200 to our names until my pension check hits next month. We are staying here. That is not my problem, I said, my voice shaking slightly. You sold your house today. You had hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity. If you gave it all to Sloan, then go stay with Sloan. She's in a hotel room. It has one bed. Then sleep on the floor, I snapped. You are not sleeping here. I raised you, Father screamed, slamming his hand against the siding of the house. I fed you. I clothed you. This house is basically mine because I made you who you are. You owe us this. I don't owe you my house, I replied quietly. Go. Please, just go before this gets worse. I released the talk button. I couldn't listen to it anymore. Father didn't leave. Instead, he turned around and walked down the steps into the rain. I watched on the screen as he marched to the back of the Buick. He popped the trunk. He started pulling out suitcases. Then he went to the back of the moving truck and rolled up the door. He dragged out a heavy cardboard box marked kitchen. He carried the box up the driveway and dumped it right in the middle of my perfectly manicured lawn. Then he went back for another one. He was unloading the truck right there in the driveway. My stomach churned. It was a power move. He was betting that I wouldn't let things or his things get ruined in the rain. He was betting that his stubbornness was stronger than my boundaries. He's not leaving, I whispered to the empty room. I went to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. My hands were trembling so bad I spilled half of it on the counter. I checked the time, 8:45 in the evening. They were digging in for a siege. By 9:45 in the evening, the rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the temperature had dropped to 43 degrees. My parents were sitting in the Buick with the engine running and the heater on. They had unloaded about 12 boxes onto my lawn. The cardboard was soggy and collapsing, spilling what looked like old Tupperware and photo albums onto the wet grass. I was sitting in the dark in my living room, the only light coming from the tablet screen on the wall and my phone in my hand. My phone was vibrating every 30 seconds. In narcissistic family dynamics, there is a term for the people the abuser recruits to harass the victim, flying monkeys, named after the witch's henchmen in The Wizard of Oz. My flying monkeys were attacking in swarms. First, it was Aunt Constance. She's my mother's sister and the family gossip hub. Constance text. Thaddeus, I just saw your mother's Facebook post. I am shaking with anger. How could you? They are elderly. They are sleeping in a car. You are a monster. I opened Facebook against my better judgment. There it was. My mother had posted a photo of herself crying in the front seat of the Buick lit by the dashboard lights. The caption read, "Heartbroken. Our own son locked us out in the cold after we sacrificed our home to save the family. Homeless and freezing. Please pray for us. We just wanted to see our granddog." She didn't even mention Sloan. She didn't mention the spa, just sacrifice to save the family. The comments were pouring in. OMG, Miriam, that is terrible. Where does he live? I'll come kick his door down. Ungrateful brat. Disown him. Then came a text from my cousin Garrett. Garrett text, "Bro, WTF. Let them in." Are you serious right now? Uncle Vernon has high blood pressure. I started typing a reply to Garrett. They sold their house to pay Sloan's gambling debts and demanded to move in with zero notice. I hovered over the send button. Then I deleted it. Explaining wouldn't help. They had already picked a side. The story was already written. I was the villain. I looked up at the security monitor. Father was out of the car again. He was walking around the perimeter of the house with a flashlight. He was checking the windows. My heart rate spiked. He wasn't just waiting anymore. He was looking for a way in. I watched him try to slide the dining room window up. Locked. He moved to the basement window. He shined the light down into the egress window. I grabbed my phone and dialed the landline number for my neighbor, Mr. Whitmore. He lives about half a mile down the road. He's an ex-Marine and keeps to himself. Hello. Whitmore's gruff voice answered. Mr. Whitmore, it's Thaddeus down at the lake house. Everything okay, son? I saw a big truck turn down your drive a while ago. Yeah, it's a family dispute, I said, feeling humiliated. My parents? They're refusing to leave. If you hear shouting or glass breaking, don't worry. It's just them. But if I call you back, I might need a witness. You need me to come down there with my dog? Whitmore asked. Rex needs a walk. No, not yet, I said. I'm trying to handle this peacefully. Just keep an ear out. Roger that. Standing by. I hung up. On the screen, Father had given up on the windows. He was walking toward the utility box on the side of the house. Don't do it, I whispered. Father, don't be stupid. He opened the panel of the external breaker box. I hadn't put a lock on it because, well, who expects their father to sabotage their power grid? On the screen, I saw him reach in and yank the main lever down. The house went black. The hum of the refrigerator died. The Wi-Fi router lights in the corner winked out. He had cut the power. He thought that without power, the smart locks might fail or the cold would force me out. He forgot two things. 1. Smart locks default to locked when power is cut. 2. I work in tech architecture. A low hum started in the basement. 5 seconds later, the Tesla Powerwall battery backup kicked in. The lights flickered and came back on, slightly dimmer, but steady. The Wi-Fi rebooted. I looked at the camera. Father was staring at the house, confused. He had pulled the switch, but the lights were back on. I picked up my phone and sent him a text. Thaddeus, I have backup generators. Turn the breaker back on, Father. Tampering with utilities is a crime. Next time I call the sheriff. He looked at his phone, read the text, and kicked the side of the house. He didn't turn the power back on. He just stormed back to the car. The night dragged on like a fever dream. I didn't sleep. I sat in the armchair facing the front window, wrapped in a blanket, watching the Buick. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, the interior light of their car turned off. They had reclined the seats. They were actually going to sleep in my driveway. The absurdity of it hit me. These were people who had just sold a home for, I assumed, a decent amount of money. Even after paying Sloane's debts, they should have had enough for a hotel. Why were they suffering like this? Why endure the cold car just to punish me? It was about control. It was a battle of wills. If they left now, they lost. If they stayed and made me feel guilty enough to open the door, they owned me. They owned the house. I opened my laptop and connected to the backup Wi-Fi. I needed to know the truth. I logged into the county property records database for their old address in Pennsylvania. It's public record. I searched Vernon and Miriam Caldwell. The sale record popped up. Recorded that morning. Sale price $675,000. My jaw dropped. $675,000. I did some quick mental math. They had bought that house in the 90s for maybe $160,000. It was paid off. So they walked away with over $600,000 in cash. Mother said they paid off Sloane's debts. I knew Sloane's trouble. She had gotten sucked into a high-ticket drop shipping scheme and then tried to cover her losses with online gambling. The last I heard from Aunt Constance, the debt was around $225,000. Huge, yes. World-ending, yes. But $675,000 minus $225,000 left $450,000. Where was the other $450,000? They have money, I whispered. They have almost $500,000. If they had that much cash, why were they claiming to be broke? Why were they sleeping in a car in my driveway? Unless they didn't have the cash. I dug deeper. I checked Sloane's Instagram. Her profile was public. Story posted 4 hours ago. A video of her holding a glass of champagne in a hotel room. Location: Azure Springs Resort and Spa. Caption: New beginnings. Manifesting abundance. Hashtag blessed. Hashtag fresh start. Hashtag crypto queen. Wait. Hashtag crypto queen. I scrolled back. 2 days ago, she had posted a photo of a yellow convertible Porsche Boxster with a giant red bow on it. Caption: "Thanks Mom and Dad for believing in my Vision investment vehicle secured." I felt sick, physically sick. They hadn't just paid her debt. They had given her everything. All of it. They had bought her a Porsche, and based on the hashtag, they had probably invested the remaining cash into whatever crypto scam she was currently pitching them as a guaranteed return. They were broke because they were stupid. They had bet the farm, literally, on Sloan becoming a millionaire overnight. And their backup plan, their safety net, their retirement home was me. They weren't just here to stay for a few weeks. They were here because they had burned the ships. They intended to live here forever while Sloan played business tycoon with their life savings. I looked out the window at the sleeping forms in the Buick. The pity I had felt earlier evaporated. It was replaced by a cold, hard resolve. I wasn't protecting my house anymore. I was protecting my future from being liquidated to fuel Sloan's delusions. The sun began to rise around 6:45 in the morning, casting a gray, bleak light over the wet driveway. The rain had stopped. The boxes on the lawn were soggy piles of mush. I stood up and stretched. My muscles were stiff. I went to the kitchen and started the coffee maker. The smell of brewing coffee filled the house. A small comfort in the middle of a war zone. At 7:15 in the morning, a splash of color appeared at the end of the driveway. A bright yellow Porsche Boxster turned off the main road. It navigated the gravel carefully, avoiding the potholes. The top was down despite the 40-degree weather. Sloan had arrived. She pulled up right behind the moving truck and honked the horn. A cheerful beep-beep that sounded jarringly out of place. Father sat up in the Buick, rubbing his face. Mother opened her door and practically fell out, looking stiff and miserable. I walked out onto the balcony on the second floor, coffee mug in hand. I looked down at the circus assembling in my driveway. Sloan hopped out of the Porsche. She was wearing oversized sunglasses and a white fuzzy coat. She looked like she was on a movie set. She looked at the boxes melting on the lawn and wrinkled her nose. "You," she said, her voice drifting up to me. "Why is all the stuff outside? Did you guys seriously sleep in the car? Thaddeus wouldn't let us in." Mother croaked, hugging herself. Sloan looked up and saw me on the balcony. She pulled her sunglasses down. "Thaddeus," she shouted, waving as if we were neighbors saying hello. "Stop being such a drama queen. Open the door." Mother looks like a zombie. I took a sip of my coffee. "Nice car, Sloan," I called down. "Does it come with a house attached?" Sloan rolled her eyes. "Don't be jealous. It's an asset for my personal brand. Now come on, let us in. I need to charge my phone." "You have $450,000 of assets," I said loudly. "Go buy a charger." Sloan's face shifted. It wasn't shame. Sloan didn't do shame. It was annoyance. The annoyance of a child who has been asked to explain why they drew on the walls. "It's not $450,000, she shouted back, leaning against her bright yellow car. "It's capital. You wouldn't understand, Thaddeus. You work for a paycheck. I'm building an empire." "An empire?" I repeated, my voice flat. "Is that what we're calling gambling now?" "It's not gambling, it's crypto arbitrage," she shrieked. "And Mom and Dad are partners. They're going to triple their investment in 6 months. We're doing this for the family." "If you're so rich," I yelled down, "why are your partners sleeping in a Buick?" Vernon stepped out of the car, then slamming the door. He looked terrible. His clothes were wrinkled, his hair was a mess, and he walked with a limp from sleeping in a cramped seat. But his anger was as fresh as ever. "That's enough," he bellowed, pointing a shaking finger up at my balcony. "You do not talk about your sister's business. You don't know anything about finance. I know that you sold your home for $675,000, I shouted back. "I pulled the records, Father. I know you gave it all to her. You didn't just pay her debts. You funded this circus." Vernon froze. He didn't know I could check public records. He looked at Mother, then back at me. "We believe in her," he stammered, losing steam. "She's going to take care of us when this pays off. We just need a place to stay until the returns come in. 6 months, Thaddeus. Maybe a year. That's all." "A year?" I laughed, shaking my head. You think I'm going to let you live in my house for a year while she plays casino with your life savings? It's better than you hoarding this place all to yourself, Mother chimed in, finding her voice again. Look at this house. It's huge. You have 4 bedrooms. Why do you need 4 bedrooms? You're single. You're not giving us grandchildren. You're just existing. That stung. It was the classic parental guilt trip. My success was meaningless because it wasn't serving their biological imperative. This is my home, I said, gripping the railing. Not a hotel, not a homeless shelter for bad investors. Turn around. Go to a motel with the money you have left. We spent the rest on the car, Sloane blurted out. I stared at her. What? The Porsche, she said, petting the hood of the car like it was a pet. We needed a company vehicle that projected success. You can't show up to investor meetings in a Buick. We used the last of the cash for the down payment and the lease. We're technically illiquid right now. Illiquid. They were broke. They had literally $0. They had sold a house, paid off debt, and blown the rest on a yellow convertible and a crypto account that was probably already draining to zero. They weren't asking to move in. They were begging for survival. But looking at them, Sloane's arrogance, father's entitlement, mother's manipulation, I realized something terrifying. If I let them in now, they would never leave. They couldn't leave. They had no exit strategy. I would be supporting 3 adults for the rest of my life. You guys are insane, I said quietly. You are actually insane. We're family, Father yelled. Now open the door. I need to use the toilet. Go use the woods, I said. You're not coming in. I turned and walked back inside, sliding the glass door shut and locking it. I pulled the curtains. I heard Sloane scream, "I hate you," followed by the sound of her kicking my siding. I sat down on the floor of my bedroom, leaning against the wall. I needed a plan. They weren't going to leave voluntarily. I had to force them. But how do you force your own parents off your property without looking like a monster? Then I saw something slide under the front door. I went downstairs. A piece of notebook paper had been shoved through the weather, stripping at the bottom of the door. I picked it up. It was handwriting. I recognized my mother's cursive. I took the paper to the kitchen island and smoothed it out. It was written on the back of an old flyer for a pizza place they must have found in the car. The audacity of the document was breathtaking. Thaddeus, it began, since you are being difficult, we are willing to compromise to make this a formal arrangement. Here are the terms for us moving in. 1. Mother and father will occupy the master suite on the first floor, easier for father's knees. 2. Sloane will take the upstairs guest room with the lake view. She needs natural light for her content creation. 3. Thaddeus can move into the loft office or the basement. It's unfinished, but you can fix it up. 4. We will pay $300 per month in total rent. 5. Thaddeus will continue to pay all utilities, internet, and taxes since it is his asset. 6. Meals will be shared. Thaddeus will cook dinner 5 nights a week as part of his contribution to the family. 7. No overnight guests for Thaddeus without mother's approval. We don't want strangers around. Signed, Mother and Father. I stared at the paper. My hands started to shake again, but this time it wasn't adrenaline. It was pure, unadulterated fury. They didn't just want a place to stay. They wanted to evict me from my own life. They wanted to relegate me to the unfinished basement of the house I built, while they took the master suite and the best guest room. And they wanted me to cook for them. And the price for this hostile takeover, $300. My mortgage alone was $2,600. The heating bill in winter was $450. I grabbed a Sharpie from the drawer. I wrote in big black letters across the entire page. No. I walked to the front door. I unlocked it, opened it about 2 inches, keeping the security chain on, and shoved the paper back out. Read it, I said through the crack. Father snatched the paper. He read it, and his face turned crimson. You ungrateful little, he started. $300 is generous. We're on a fixed income. Then go rent a room that costs $300, I shouted through the crack. Oh, wait. Those don't exist. You want a $3,000 value for pennies? Sloane needs the light, Mother yelled from behind him. Her job depends on it. Her job is a scam, Mother, I yelled back. It's not real. None of this is real. You guys are playing house with Monopoly money. Open this door. Father slammed his shoulder against the wood. The chain rattled but held. I am ordering you. I am 36 years old, I shouted. You don't order me to do anything. Get off my porch. I slammed the door again and bolted it. I went back to the kitchen and looked at the coffee maker. I felt like I was going to throw up. Then I heard a new sound. The sound of a heavy engine, but not the moving truck. A van. I checked the camera. A white van had pulled up next to the Porsche. On the side, it said Lakeside Lock and Key. My blood ran cold. Father was talking to a man in blue coveralls. The locksmith. Father was pointing at my front door, gesturing wildly. He pulled out his wallet and showed the man his driver's license. He was trying to drill the locks. He was going to break into my house. I didn't think. I reacted. I ran to the living room window, threw the sash up, and stuck my head out. Hey! I screamed at the locksmith. Hey, don't touch that door. The locksmith, a burly guy with a beard, looked up, startled. He looked at me, then at my father. He lost his keys, Father shouted over me, trying to block the locksmith's view of me. My son is confused. He's having an episode. Just open the door. I'll pay you extra. I am the owner, I yelled, my voice cracking. That man is a trespasser. My name is Thaddeus Caldwell. Look at the deed records. If you drill that lock, I will sue you and I will call the police for breaking and entering. The locksmith took a step back. He looked at Father's driver's license, then at me. Sir, the locksmith said to my father, your ID says you live in Pennsylvania. We just moved, Father insisted, sweat pouring down his face. This is my vacation home. My son is squatting inside. He's mentally unstable. I have the security codes, I shouted. I have the utility bills in my name. Leave now. The locksmith put his drill back in his belt. He shook his head. Look, folks, I can't get involved in a domestic dispute. If you don't have proof of ownership and there's someone inside claiming you're trespassing, I'm out. Call the cops if it's your house. I will call the cops, Father threatened. I'll have you arrested for negligence. You do that, the locksmith said. He walked back to his van, got in, and reversed down the driveway faster than I'd ever seen a service vehicle move. Father stood there panting. He looked at the retreating van, then back at the house. He picked up a garden gnome from my flower bed, a stupid little ceramic thing Aunt Constance had given me as a joke gift, and hurled it at the window I was looking out of. The gnome shattered against the siding just below the window frame. A shard of ceramic flew up and cracked the bottom pane of glass. You ruined everything, Father screamed, his voice raw. You selfish, hateful brat. We did everything for you. I looked at the cracked glass. I looked at the broken gnome. That was it. The line had been crossed. It wasn't just a dispute anymore. It was property damage. It was violence. I pulled my phone out. I didn't call my friends. I didn't call a therapist. I dialed 911. 911. What is your emergency? I need a sheriff's deputy at 440 Pine Ridge Road, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. I have 3 trespassers refusing to leave, and they have just begun destroying my property. I am in fear for my safety. Are the trespassers known to you? The dispatcher asked. Yes, I said. They are my parents. Okay, sir. We have a unit nearby. Deputy Callahan is en route. Stay inside and lock your doors. They're already locked, I said. I hung up. I watched on the camera as Sloane sat on the hood of her Porsche, filing her nails while Father kicked the soggy boxes on the lawn. Mother was pacing, muttering to herself. They had no idea what was coming. They thought because they were mother and father, the law didn't apply to them. They thought biology was a get-out-of-jail-free card. They were about to learn that in the real world, a deed beats DNA every time. Waiting for the police is a surreal experience. You expect sirens wailing in the distance like in the movies, but out here at the lake, it's just silence. The kind of silence that amplifies every sound your parents make as they destroy your front yard. After calling 911, I didn't hide. I prepared. I went to my office and printed a copy of my property deed. I grabbed a folder with my utility bills. Then I went to the security system interface and downloaded the clips. Father cutting the power. Father throwing the gnome. Father trying to drill the lock. I synced them to my phone. I checked the time. It had been 22 minutes. Deputy Callahan would be here any second. I decided to give them one last chance. Not for them, but for the camera, for the record. I unlocked the front door and stepped out onto the porch again. The rain had stopped, leaving the air crisp and cold. Father was sitting on the bumper of the moving truck, head in his hands. Mother was leaning against the Porsche, talking to Sloan. When the door opened, they all looked up. Finally, Mother exclaimed, pushing off the car. "Did you come to your senses? We're freezing, Thaddeus." I held up my phone, screen facing them. The red recording dot was blinking. "I am recording this," I announced loudly. "This is your final warning. You are trespassing on private property. You have destroyed my property. The police are on their way. If you leave right now, get in your cars and drive away. I will tell the sheriff to let you go with a warning. If you are still here when he arrives, I will press charges." Father stood up, his face flushing red again. "You called the cops on us." "On your own father?" "You threw a brick at my window, Father," I yelled, pointing at the shattered gnome on the grass. "You cut my power. That is not parenting. That is criminal mischief." "It was an accident," Father lied, looking at the phone camera. I slipped. The gnome fell. "I have it on video, Father," I said coldly. "I have everything on video. The power box, the locksmith, all of it." Sloan hopped off the hood of the Porsche. She pulled down her sunglasses, looking at me with pure venom. "You are such a loser, Thaddeus," she sneered. "You think the police are going to arrest us? We're your family. It's a civil dispute. They're going to tell you to let us in because we're residents." "You're not residents," I said. "You've never spent a night here. You have no mail here. You have no keys." "We have belongings here," Father shouted, gesturing to the soggy boxes on the lawn. "That establishes residency. That establishes littering," I corrected. "Just let us in," Mother wailed, trying the guilt angle again. "Thaddeus, please. Where are we supposed to go?" "We sold the house. We have nothing." "You have a Porsche," I said, looking at the yellow car. "Sell it. That's 50 grand right there. That buys a lot of hotel nights." "We can't sell it," Sloan screamed. "It's a lease and the penalty for breaking it is huge." I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. It was a dark, bitter sound. "So you leased a luxury car with your last dollars?" I said, shaking my head. "And now you want me to subsidize your stupidity?" "No, absolutely not." "Here he comes," Father said, looking down the driveway. A sheriff's cruiser, a white Ford Explorer with sheriff in gold letters, crunched up the gravel drive. It didn't use sirens, just the flashing blue lights reflecting off the wet trees. "Good," Father said, straightening his jacket. "I'll talk to him. I'll explain that you're having a mental breakdown and locking us out of our own home." "Go ahead," I said. "Talk." The cruiser stopped behind the moving truck. Deputy Callahan stepped out. He's a big guy, late 40s, who knows everyone in the county. He's been to my house for barbecues. He knows I'm not unstable. "Morning, folks," Callahan said, adjusting his belt. He looked at the boxes on the lawn, the yellow Porsche and the broken gnome. "Looks like quite a party. Officer?" Father rushed forward, putting on his respectable citizen voice. "Thank goodness you're here. My son, he's up there on the porch. He's having some kind of episode. He's locking us out of our vacation home. We just moved in, and he's refusing to let us unload." Callahan looked up at me. "Morning, Thaddeus." "Morning, Deputy," I said. "I'm not having an episode. These people are trespassing." "Trespassing?" Mother shrieked. "We're his parents." "How can we trespass?" "Do you live here, ma'am?" Callahan asked calmly. "Yes," Father interrupted. "We moved in today. See the truck? Do you have a lease?" Callahan asked. "Or a deed?" "We have a verbal agreement," Father lied. He agreed to let us live here, then changed his mind when we got here. I did not, I said clearly. I haven't spoken to them in 3 weeks. They showed up uninvited yesterday. I denied them entry. They slept in their car. They have never stepped foot inside. Is that true? Callahan asked Father. You haven't been inside. Well, no, because he locked us out, Father sputtered. Okay, Callahan said. If you haven't been inside, you haven't established residency. That makes this a guest situation, and the owner has the right to revoke a guest invitation at any time. Revoke? Sloan laughed scathingly. We're not guests. We're family. Doesn't matter to the law, miss, Callahan said. He looked at the shattered gnome. Thaddeus, you mentioned property damage. Yes. I walked down the steps, handing Callahan my phone. Here is the video of Vernon Caldwell cutting my power at the breaker box last night. And here is him throwing a ceramic object through my window 10 minutes ago. Callahan watched the video. His face hardened. Callahan watched the video twice. He looked at Father, then back at the phone. Sir, Callahan said to Father, his voice losing its friendly, neighborly tone. Did you cut the power to this residence? I was trying to reset the breaker. Father lied clumsily. I thought the doorbell was broken. At 2 o'clock in the morning? Callahan raised an eyebrow. And the window. Did the gnome slip out of your hand? He provoked me, Father shouted, pointing at me. He was disrespecting me. I am his father. Being a father doesn't give you the right to break windows, Callahan said sternly. Okay, here is the situation. Mr. Caldwell wants you off the property. You have no legal right to be here. Furthermore, I have evidence of vandalism and potential attempted burglary with that locksmith stunt. You can't kick us out, Mother cried, grabbing Callahan's arm. We have nowhere to go. We sold our house. Callahan gently removed her hand. Ma'am, that is a civil matter. Right now, I am enforcing a trespassing complaint. You have 2 choices. Option A, you load those boxes back into the truck and leave immediately. Option B, I arrest Mr. Caldwell for vandalism and criminal mischief, and I arrest the rest of you for criminal trespass. Silence. Absolute silence in the driveway. Sloan looked at her parents, her eyes wide. Mother, are we getting arrested? No, Father said quickly. No, of course not. This officer is just confused. I am not confused, sir, Callahan said, putting his hand near his handcuffs. I need a decision now. Father looked at me. His eyes were pleading for the first time. He wanted me to stop it. He wanted me to say, It's okay, deputy. Let them stay. I looked him dead in the eye. I thought about the rent agreement. I thought about the basement. I thought about the Porsche. Option A sounds good to me, I said. Father's shoulders slumped. The fight went out of him. He realized finally that he had no power here. Fine, he spat. Fine, we're leaving. You happy now? You made your parents homeless. You made yourselves homeless, I said. I'm just refusing to be the shelter. Callahan stood there, arms crossed, watching them. Get loading. I'm staying until you're off the property. The next 30 minutes were the most satisfying and heartbreaking of my life. I watched my 65-year-old father and my mother drag soggy cardboard boxes back to the moving truck. Sloan didn't help. She sat in her Porsche, texting furiously, probably trying to spin this on social media. When the last box was in, Father slammed the truck door. He walked up to me one last time. He didn't look angry anymore. He looked old. You're dead to us, he whispered. Don't call us. Don't come to Christmas. You have no family. I haven't had a family for a long time, Father, I said quietly. I just had dependents. He flinched as if I had slapped him. He turned around, got in the sedan, and started the engine. Sloan revved the Porsche. She gave me the finger as she peeled out of the driveway, gravel spraying everywhere. The moving truck followed, lumbering down the drive like a defeated beast. Callahan watched them go. He turned to me. You okay, Thaddeus? No, I said honestly. But I will be. You want to file charges for the window? I looked at the shattered glass. No, let them go. Just put a note in the file in case they come back. "Will do," Callahan said. "Call me if you see that yellow car again." He got in his cruiser and drove away. I was alone. The driveway was empty, saved for a few scraps of wet cardboard. The silence returned. The wind rustled the pine trees. I walked back inside. I locked the door. I engaged the deadbolt. I went to the kitchen and poured the rest of my cold coffee down the sink. The fallout was predictable, toxic, and swift. By that evening, my extended family had declared war. My phone was flooded with hateful texts from aunts, uncles, and cousins I hadn't seen in a decade. "You left them on the street. Miriam is in the hospital with stress." Lie. "I hope you die alone in that big house." I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I did something I should have done years ago. I compiled the evidence. I took the video clips, the power cutting, the gnome throwing, the locksmith confrontation. I took a photo of the rental agreement demanding I live in the basement. I took screenshots of Sloane's Porsche and champagne posts timestamped the same day they claimed to be destitute. I posted it all on my own Facebook page. I wrote a simple caption. For everyone messaging me about my parents. They sold their home for $675,000, gave it all to Sloane for a Porsche and crypto, and then broke into my property, demanding I live in my own basement while they took the master suite. Here is the video of father destroying my property when I said no. I will not be commenting further. Anyone who supports this behavior is welcome to house them. The silence that followed was deafening. Within an hour, the hateful comments stopped. Aunt Constance deleted her posts. Cousin Garrett texted me. "Dude, I didn't know about the Porsche. That's messed up. Sorry. I found out later from Whitmore, who hears everything, that they ended up at a Motel 6 in town for 2 nights. Then, when the reality of their investment hit, they had to return the Porsche. They lost the deposit and the lease break fee, another $12,000 gone. They rented a small double-wide trailer in a park about 20 miles away. It was all they could afford with the remnants of their pension. Sloane stayed with them for a week, then moved to Miami with some guy she met online to pursue her modeling. She abandoned them the moment the money ran dry. Father tried to call me a month later. I sent it to voicemail. I listened to it once. He wasn't apologizing. He was asking if I had any old furniture I wasn't using because the trailer was unfurnished. I blocked the number. It's been 6 months now. The lake is frozen over, a sheet of pristine white stretching to the horizon. I fixed the window. I bought a new gnome, a concrete one that's too heavy to throw. I spend my evenings working by the fire, my dog at my feet. It's quiet. Sometimes it's lonely. I won't lie and say it doesn't hurt. There is a specific kind of grief in realizing you are effectively an orphan because your parents chose their ego over your relationship. But then I look around. I look at the walls I built. I look at the bank account that isn't being drained to pay for a sister's mistakes. I look at the peace I have cultivated. I realize that family isn't a suicide pact. It's not a blank check. You are allowed to save yourself. You are allowed to close the door when the hurricane comes back. Poor planning on their part did not constitute an emergency on mine. And for the first time in my life, I am not the safety net. I am just the guy in the lake house enjoying the silence. So, I have to ask you guys, was I wrong? Was I the jerk for making my elderly parents homeless after they sold their own paid-off home to enable my sister's delusions? Should I have taken the deal, lived in the basement, and let them play pretend in my house? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. Thanks for listening to this story. If you enjoyed watching entitled parents face the consequences of their own actions, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story from the Reddit drama family. See you in the next one.